after Mega Man 10, the future of the franchise was looking pretty good. There were several games in development that a lot of people were looking forward to. Huh? What the hell do you mean Inafune left Capcom? That's fine, I suppose. I mean, I'm sure am looking forward to that Mega Man universe that lets you build your own Mega Man stages with Ryu as a playable character. Oh, well, this reimagining of Mega Man X inspired by the Metroid Prime series looks interesting. Oh, come on. This MMO Mega... Will you let me finish?! Perhaps the most anticipated game of all of this, Mega Man Legends 3, will actually cross the finish line.
Guess I'll just be killing myself then.
3 whole years went by without any information related to the Blue Bomber. Then one day, Keiji Inafune announced to the internet his idea for a Mega Man spiritual successor, Mighty Number 9. Not long after, a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign was launched and quickly smashed through all of its initial goals and all of its stretch goals, becoming incredibly successful. It was announced that Inti Creates, who had worked with Capcom and Inafune previously on past Mega Man titles, would be the primary developer of the game. Now, after that Kickstarter was an astronomical amount of drama that I won't cover all here, but I'll just say that misconceptions with how Inafune's company Comcept was working on the game, that god-awful trailer from publisher Deep Silver,
Make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night,
to 3 delays led to a lot of animosity built up towards this game prior to its release. If you want an in-depth view of the drama, I suggest Burn Crow's video on the game. It's an excellent documentary on the game that goes well into the Kickstarter drama, as well as the game itself. Over a year past due, Mighty Number 9 finally released to mediocre acclaim. What didn't help was the amount of systems that it released on. Windows, macOS, Linux, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Wii U, all of which had their own quirks and issues, especially the Wii U port, which had unstable frame rates and was prone to crashing. Thank God that they axed the 3DS and Vita ports. I couldn't have imagined how those would have ran. That's not even mentioning that some people's DLC codes didn't work at launch initially, and some antivirus programs picked the game up as suspicious. Here's the thing though, we are nearly 10 years removed from this game's original release and all of the drama that surrounded it. I think it's very clear that back then, the Kickstarter stuff really impacted people's opinions on this game, so I think it's a safe question to ask, is Mighty Number 9 actually a good game? Well, let's jump right into Inafune's spiritual successor and see if it was truly bad, or if Mighty Number 9 was secretly good this whole time. Alright, so first of all, this game is dirt cheap nowadays. It can go for as low as $2 on Steam during sales, and if you want it on console, then you can get a sealed copy with the DLC code still intact for like 13 bucks. Just for the love of God, avoid the Wii U version for the reasons that I already mentioned. The year is and violence has been confined to robots in this battle coliseum, with crowds gathering to see their favorites beat the shit out of the others. Then suddenly, robots across the country go rogue and start attacking humans. It's here we meet our player character, Beck, the 9th robot in a series of robots called the Mighty Numbers. Beck catches up with his creator, Dr. White, who sends Beck to clear a path forward so he can get to his lab. It's here we gain control of Beck and get a basic overview of the game's controls, and if you've played Mega Man before, it's pretty much the same, except Beck doesn't have a charge shot or slide. He can grab onto ledges at least, which is used in neat ways sometimes, but aside from that, the main attraction that Beck has is his dash. With the press of the right bumper, Beck can do a dash, either in the air or on the ground. That's not even all of it, because Beck does have some more advanced movement options that you can check out in the menus, and please look at them as soon as you can. Don't be like me and not know that you can do a crouch dash to dash under enemy attacks until the 8th stage in the game. We soon catch a broadcast of the news.
Once again, the president has declared a countrywide state of emergency.
No.
This based on reports of haywire robots rampaging out of control in all 52 states.
Dear God.
Wait a minute, 52 states? What did we take over Canada and Greenland? Does doing so lead to the Mighty Number 9 timeline? Did Keiji Inafune predict the Orange Man? The CEO of Cherry Dynamics, Gregory Graham, informs the public that he has nothing to do with robots across the United States going haywire, and that it must have been the work of one Dr. Blackwell, who has reportedly attempted something similar before in the past. Now we get to play more of the intro stage, where we are properly introduced to the main eye-catching gameplay mechanic of this game, cell absorption. By weakening an enemy until this aura forms around them, you can dash into them to absorb the enemy's cells, which not only gives you a ton of points on your score counter, but can also net you an excel boost based on what color of cells you absorb. Blue will build up over time and eventually can give you a recovery item that you can use freely at your leisure. It also has 2 stages depending on how many blue cells you absorbed. Red gives your buster shots a power boost, yellow buffs your armor so you take less damage, and green increases your overall speed. The red, yellow, and green excel boosts are only temporary and last for what I would say is roughly 15 seconds, give or take. If you ask me, the excel boost, cell absorption, anything involving that group of mechanics is surprisingly fun and feels rewarding, especially if you chain enemy absorptions together, giving you multiple boosts at the same time, which also increases your score further. At the end of the level is our first boss, Round Digger. It's a very simple boss, as it's only really here to test our knowledge that we gained from the intro level. It can drive from one side of the arena to the other, launch missiles, and use this hydro cannon as its means of attack. This also shows us a gimmick with the boss fights, that being that you can only take a chunk of the boss's health at a time, as when they take enough damage, they start to glow purple and won't take any more damage until you absorb their cells, and you need to be quick with it, otherwise they can regain that chunk of health that they lost. I wasn't really fond of the idea of having to dash into the bosses at first, but from what I can tell, they do give you some generous iframes after doing so you won't take any touch damage. After you beat a level, you get graded based on multiple aspects: the time that you spent in the stage, the amount of damage you took, the amount of kills you got, your cell absorption average, and your total score that you got throughout the stage. This is then all added up to give you your final score, which you are then given a letter grade on. This does add some replay value to Mighty No. 9, somewhat similarly to the 3D Sonic games, although it is ultimately dependent on if you care about that sort of thing or not, but still, the addition is appreciated. Back at the lab, we're introduced to Dr. Sanda and his robot assistant, Call. They then try to reach out to Sanda's brother in Japan, but they are sadly informed that the Japanese government won't allow him to intervene until a cause has been found. So it's up to Beck to find the other Mighty Numbers, neutralize them, and save them from whatever is causing them to go on this rampage. So from here, we're free to choose any of the Mighty Numbers to go after. We got 8 in total, and initially I was gonna go with Cryosphere. Counter Shade it is then. So first of all, let me get this out of the way. This stage is pretty nice. It's very straightforward, as the gimmick of the stage is that Counter Shade is trying to snipe you from a distance with you needing to take cover, especially since these things can redirect the bullet's path. The stage is very simple in terms of layout otherwise, as it's practically a straight line. The only gripe that I have with this stage is that if you die, there aren't any checkpoints until the boss. Now, to be fair, this isn't a difficult stage, so getting sent back to the beginning isn't that terrible, but then again, that was like 5 minutes of stage that I had to redo because I didn't realize that the purple electric wires were insta-kills. Kind of bullshit if you ask me, but I did manage to make it to the boss on the second attempt. The stage isn't the only thing here that's easy, as Counter Shade himself is probably the easiest fight in the game. He'll move into a position and aim his gun, which will show you the path his bullets will take. Then, he fires. This means that his attacks are the definition of predictable. Even his second phase isn't anything to write home about, as he just spawns a copy of himself and... oh god, which one do I shoot? I don't even think the copy can deal touch damage to you, so you can use that to your advantage. For saving Counter Shade, we get the ability to copy his likeness and weapon. Unlike Mega Man, these don't really have unique names, at least I don't think so, but they typically just share the boss's name instead. Counter Shade's weapon allows us to fire a bullet that can ricochet around the room, which if aimed properly, can be hella useful for taking care of enemies from a distance. Next up in the boss weakness order is Aviator. Now, how do I know that he's the next one we're taking on? Well, you see that advice tab? That only shows up when you have the Mighty Numbers weakness. Avi's stage is pretty treacherous, as it often requires platforming over bottomless pits. That's not even mentioning that the second half of the level loves to place these insta-kill traps in semi-awkward places. What's cool though is that partway through the stage, Counter Shade shows up and actually provides us with some aid, and Okay, it's kind of funny that his model isn't moving while it's that close to the camera. I mean, hey, the help is appreciated no matter what, even if it looks kind of goofy. Something you might have noticed is that throughout the levels in the game, the other characters will often chime in to provide some background commentary, and while I don't mind that at all, I do find it strange that they just use the same static PNG of the characters regardless of what emotion they're currently voicing. It's odd, especially since the voice acting in this game is actually really solid, I'd say. It's a shame that the visual representation doesn't reflect that as well as it could. Finally, at the top of the level is Aviator, whose fight was kind of annoying to be honest. Avi himself isn't the problem, it's the damned boss arena, which is so small with those pits on each side of it. He'll primarily fly back and forth and on occasion fly up and down the screen while firing his weapon. Phase 2 allows him to move into the background and rapid fire at Beck, although the accuracy on that attack is pitiful. My only real gripe with this fight is that the need to absorb the cells of the boss after enough hits often led to my death thanks to the bottomless pits in the arena. With Avi sniped down and restored to his normal self, we get the ability to copy his weapon. Avi's weapon is a rotary blade that we can just spin and launches a projectile, and the hitbox on this thing is huge. It's a nice weapon, and if you hold the attack button down, it'll stay on Beck and can be used to make platforming easier with slower descents. Next on our to-do list is Pyrogen. His stage is set in an oil refinery, which means that yes, at various points in the level, the oil can be set on fire, making the stage more difficult. Honestly though, it's not that bad. In my opinion, the hard part of this stage is when these pillars in the background fall forward and destroy the platforms as you move, not to mention the hailstorm of fireballs that's raining down at the same time. Play this part safe, trust me. This level though does highlight a bit of a problem with Mighty No. 9, that being the pizza explosions. Mighty No. 9 was made using Unreal Engine 3. It's a powerful engine for its time, but by 2016 had become outdated with the release of Unreal 4. Now, I'm not normally a stickler for graphics, and I will say that there are some times where Mighty No. 9 does look good, but instances like this do kind of highlight weak points of the visuals. I also think that it doesn't help that Inti Creates was more accustomed to pixel art than 3D models, and it definitely shows with this game. Finally, we reach... wait a minute, that's Matthew Mercer! I recognize that voice. Anyway, Pyro is a menace to deal with at some points, mainly due to the fact that he is an aggressive robot to fight. He'll run from one side of the arena to the other, all the while leaving behind tall flame pillars. He can also do a belly flop onto the ground to cause an explosion, and in Phase 2... he has an insta-kill attack? What kind of tomfucker? You know... that's not my only issue with this fight. He also just keeps saying the same voice lines over and over and over again, and it kind of reminds me of someone else, you know? For blowing away Pyro's flames, we get his signature ability to charge up a fiery charge within Beck and unleash a massive explosion. This can be a nice weapon to use, although the hitbox on it is questionable at times. There were several instances where I swear I was close enough to an enemy, only for it to just decide, nah, I don't really feel like it. Afterwards, we get a cutscene that demonstrates that, by God, these needed additional work. The voice lines and the animations just don't match up all that much sometimes.
Oh, blast! I see no pattern whatsoever.
Anyway, Dr. White realizes that since Call wasn't active at the time of the whole mass haywire thing, she seemingly wasn't affected, which leads to him forming some sort of working theory, although what that is, we aren't told yet. Now we must tackle Cryosphere, who has frozen this whole water treatment plant solid. This is the water level of this game, and is one of the easiest levels in the game because Beck's dash just... yeah, that. There's also a decent amount of purple spikes in this level, which are insta-kills. These spike drop segments are a little frustrating, since there isn't a screen transition like in the classic Mega Man games to let you catch your breath. The mini-boss of this stage can best be described as tennis. I mean, seriously, what else would you call this? You have to fight the thing twice too, with Cryo herself showing up to shoot down ice globs to make the fight a little more difficult the second time. That is then followed up by the standard example of forgiving level design by Inti Creates. Seriously, they love to place these insta-kill objects in a lot of the levels, it's nuts. Cryosphere will do everything in her power to freeze us in place. She'll propel herself into the air and move around the arena, and soon after, she'll turn the water stream into ice and launch her ice glob projectiles in an attempt to turn Beck into a popsicle. If she does manage to freeze you, she'll then encase herself in a spike ball and slam herself into you. Her second phase will have her blow a freezing stream into the air, with you needing to dash under it at the right moments to avoid becoming a popsicle. With cryo cells thawed out, we get her ice weapon. This can allow us to lob a glob of freezing liquid, which will then significantly slow down enemies and cause them to take damage. If the enemy's health is depleted, then they'll just freeze in place. This can even be used on certain bosses later in the game as well, making it a nice bit of help. Now it's time for the most morally correct thing Beck must stop, the industrial military complex, which has been taken over by Battalion. We actually learned from Dr. White that apparently the military robots here shouldn't exist due to the US's disarmament. Lots of conveyors in this stage, I've noticed, a lot of which end up coming close to spikes. Now I think about it, that level design feels kind of familiar, like Wily Castle 10 familiar. So I want to bring this up now because it's something you're going to really start to experience now that we have 4 special weapons to deal with. That being, how you switch and select them is very awkward. In order to select a special weapon, you need to navigate this drop-down menu in real time with the left bumper and trigger, then press Y on the highlighted weapon to select it. This feels very weird, and in the heat of the moment can actually kind of screw you over. I feel like a better way of doing this would have just been able to utilize the right analog stick to activate a weapon wheel, then select the weapon that way. It would have been faster and more efficient to boot. At last we reach Battalion, who—
Do you suck dicks?
What?
Hell, I like you. You can come over to my house and fuck my sister.
You fought with honor, soldier.
Battalion can be one of the easiest bosses in the game with his weakness, as it pretty much just stun locks him. He'll attempt to launch missiles at you, the keyword there being attempt. Seriously, just spam him with Cryosphere's weapon, and he goes down like nothing. For leaving Battalion of duty, we claim his special weapon, and it's a good one. You get this missile that you can launch, but it won't explode until you detonate it yourself. That is on top of the fact that the hitbox for the explosion is pretty large, which is why I personally consider it to be one of the best weapons in the whole game. It seems that Beck yearns for the mine, so it's off to take on Seismic. This is probably one of the more difficult levels thus far, thanks to the amount of insta-kill objects present. Not only are there a ton of these purple spikes, but you also gotta deal with these large drills. This section isn't too bad though, as long as you don't rush it and get trapped by one of the drills. At least Bat shows up to destroy one of the level's objects, making this part of the level a little bit easier for us. Then we reach the drill chase segment of this level, which is very tricky to get through. You're basically being chased by this massive drill, and need to take care of the enemies and blow up some obstacles in order to survive. The final part of this stretch is this spike corridor, where you need to hang off of the ledge of this platform in order to get through it. Once you're past that, it's pretty straightforward from then on until we reach the boss. Seismic will attempt to charge at us from across the arena. He can also reach across the boss room with his drill arms and even slam into the ground to cause some rubble to fall down. Phase 2 sees him bring down more pillars to shrink the boss arena, making the fight a little more intense. Fortunately, the missile bomb just wrecks his day and chews through his health like no tomorrow. With Seismic booted out of the mines, we get ourselves a new ability, and I'll be honest, I don't like this one that much. Your legs are transformed into treads, and you get to charge through enemies, but the opportunity to use it rarely comes up, and when it does, that being the next boss, it honestly kinda sucks, and I tend to take touch damage when using it. Alrighty, next up we got...
This thing's on. Okay. Hi there, kitty fellow. Might I add my 2 cents about the next objective?
Holy shiza, it's the funny Birdman from Burn Crow SP. Please subscribe to him, please. Yeah, sure, go for it.
Alrighty, then let's get on the road, because my number 7 is causing a wreck at the highway. No Boba Fett wannabes this time though. Brand appears right in front of Beck right away, asking him to leave before the virus takes over his mind. That's not in our plans though, so let's give him chase. This level is mostly designed around very short enemy gauntlets and auto-scrollers. Precision platforming is also required from the player, but the difficulty is measured very well here. As Beck gets closer to Brandish, safe spaces to land on will be smaller and smaller. Same goes for the enemies, with the first section being mostly occupied by these traffic light guys and bombers. Then, as you progress into the tunnel, stronger foes like the legally distinct Sniper Joes will show up, accompanied by the Wheels and the little fellows you've seen before. I wish I knew the names of these enemies. Finally, Beck will emerge into the sunrise, being hunted down by Brandish into what feels like a harder version of what the level initially proposed. I do hope the people inside those cars are okay. For a level that is technically speaking a straight line with a bunch of stops along the way, they managed to create a mostly fun stage. Visibility creates a big issue, however, because some of the enemy placements are likely to catch new players by surprise. Thankfully, in a rare showcase of mercy from Indie Creates, the road isn't an instant death hazard. Actually, oh my goodness, this level doesn't have any of them. Did they forget or something? I can't see them myself at least.
Shit, maybe they did forget to place them, although I'd personally like to think of it as mercy for how many insta-kill obstacles there were in Seismic Stage.
Oh, and speaking of seeing things, there's a lot to look at in the background. The 3/3 of the highway stage aren't only divided by the enemies and the set pieces. Every chunk has its own look and feel to it. In fact, just like the Capitol building, this was one of the stages that were added as Kickstarter stretch goals. So the background is filled with cameos of people who paid for the "your face in the game" tier. And they are quite recognizable. You can spot the Proto Man, Aaron Hanson from the Game Grumps, and Alraz, who was a moderator on the Mighty No. 9 forums. For a game that's often visually uninteresting, having so many backdrops is a very welcome touch.
Yeah, I gotta say, I wasn't really expecting to be straight up jump scared by Aaron Hansen in this stage. It kinda took me out of the game for a second, to be honest. It's neat, but, I mean, it's just kind of whatever, you know?
Oh yeah, sadly it doesn't change the level in any way, but it's cool to have him here. Now, about Brandish himself, he's quite the aggressive boss. He has various very fast moves, and he's designed to counter your shots by spinning around. On paper, his fight is extremely fun and intense, but it's dragged down by two main problems. First of all, his attacks have very janky hitboxes, making his desperation move a complete nightmare to avoid. Which leads me to the second issue. Absorbing his health often proves to be very uncomfortable. It's like they didn't make him with that mechanic in mind. Thankfully, CeeCee, you got Seismic Form at your disposal. It makes it easier to dodge his edgy anime attack, and you can bonk him until he Rotarola dies! By removing his forklift certificate, Beck obtains Brandish Form, a very fast melee attack that doesn't use ammo. That is reserved for his charge attack, making it one of the best weapons in the game. Well then, where are you off to now?
I think all I have left is Dynatron now.
Wish you luck then. Thanks for letting me into this cyberspace, you got a nice computer here. Tell Kiki I said hi.
I just got the notification about the signal interference. Everything okay?
Yeah, it's all good. Crow was just stopping by to get me back. I am high off my ass right now, and I was locked into a 9-hour Sims 3 sesh. Alright, now we can take on the last of the mighty numbers, Dynatron. Her stage isn't bad. Honestly, a large part of it is pretty simple. The most difficult thing you'll encounter early on is these generator robots who send out electro balls, as they can sometimes be placed in odd areas. But nothing you shouldn't be able to handle. Even the enemy rush partway through isn't that bad. Afterwards is the real troublesome part of this stage. These damn turbines are just one large circle of death. Now, fortunately, they won't pull you in, but this specific part right here where you need to crouch dash under them feels incredibly tight. This is also why I said take a look at the advanced movement options in the tip tab as soon as you're able to, so you actually know what that move is and how to do it before this point. After a lot of trial and error, we reach Dynatron and begin our fight against her. Her first phase sure does exist. She'll try and launch these little electric siege, which can latch onto Beck and then send out electricity, which will go all around the room. Phase 2 is pretty similar, except she forms a shield around herself, which can actually be destroyed quickly. Brandish's weapon is really useful for destroying those seeds and draining her health. For cutting Dinah's malfunctioning wires, we get her special weapon. This allows us to launch electric seeds of our own, which can receive electricity from the horn that forms on Beck's helmet, damaging anything that comes into contact with the electricity or the seeds. It's probably the closest thing there is to a screen-wide AoE type of weapon that we have, although personally, I would have thought it would have been nice if we actually got a shield weapon since, she uses one in her fight. With all 8 mighty numbers saved, we return to base for our next course of action. It's decided that Beck and Dr. White will head to the robot factory along with the mighty numbers, as the place has seemingly gone rogue and is pumping out malfunctioning robots by the dozens. Cole and Dr. Santa opt to instead head for the prison that Dr. Blackwell is being held at and see if he is truly the one behind all of this. So we got 2 stages to tackle, but before that, let's actually delve into some of the extras and DLC that this game offers us. Let's get the two simple things out of the way first. You can choose a retro-style OST, which is reminiscent of the NES. I haven't really talked about this, but I will say that this game does have some pretty good music, both modern and retro. Give them a listen sometime, why don't you? Online multiplayer is here, and I'll just say this now, you ain't playing it. First of all, good luck connecting to anyone, as this game's servers are more dead than Concord. Even if you do manage to connect, the online isn't great, as it's just a race through the levels, and back at launch, these were buggy as hell. Now let's tackle the extras. These are little challenge stages you can do that often test your skills in various ways. These range from basic challenges like reaching the goal without dying, to using a specific weapon while trying not to die and being unable to move. These can actually teach you some creative ways to use the special weapons as well. It's really nice. A good chunk of them are just clear this stage under a time limit without dying, but for an optional game mode, it's pretty nice. Next up is the DLC level, the Vermilion Destroyer. This sees Beck track down this rogue robot as it's just tearing up the place, culminating in a boss fight against Ray, who is an entirely unique boss fight. What's cool is that once you beat her, you actually unlock her campaign, which is very similar to Beck's, except her main gimmick is that she's constantly taking damage and needs to absorb cells in order to restore her health. Because of her abilities, you often just want to rush through levels while killing as many enemies as possible. She's really fun to play as, and her DLC is only $5 at full price. Alright, we got two stages to take on, the prison and the robot factory. I opted for the prison first as we actually switch over to Call for this level. It's a stealth level as we want to do our best to make progress without getting into combat with the guard robots. Call herself plays very similarly to Beck, but her buster can only fire one shot at a time, she has this hover for slow descents, and she gets this energy shield to help protect yourself. The main thing you'll be doing here is looking for security keys to progress. Stealth gameplay and needing to find key cards to unlock the doors. I just hope we don't fight a giant nuclear battle tank at the end of the level. Now here's the thing, the majority of this level is not that hard. For the sudden change in character, this actually feels elegantly executed. Almost. At the very end of the level before the boss is what I consider to be the poster child for dick-headed level design in Mighty No. 9. Why is this spike section so unforgiving? Either you get it right or you die, and there's no room for error.
Cock and ball torture from Wikipedia.
The boss of this level isn't too bad. It's this robotic guard dog with a very simple attack pattern. When it's not hopping across the room, it'll use the turret in its mouth to attack you, but you can blind it so that it can't aim at you by shooting its eyes out. When it roars, enemies will be dropped in, and if it's the guard robot, then it'll eat it to get its eyes back. If it's the bomb... Next we head for the robot factory with Beck and Dr. White. What's cool is that this level actually tests your knowledge of the special weapons, as you need to use them in order to make progress. This even includes a rematch against the first boss of the game. This level actually has multiple bosses like this small enemy generator, which just dies thanks to the power of explosions. We're also joined by the other Mighty Numbers who help us throughout the level. Not that it ultimately means much, but it's still really cool having them help us. Honestly, I like how the Mighty Numbers feel more involved than the Robot Masters of Mega Man. The Robot Masters are ultimately just bosses at the end of the level. The Mighty Numbers, on top of that, can show up in other levels to help you if you saved them, or they can show up to make a part of the level more difficult, like Cryosphere with her mini-boss, or Countershade who is just hunting you throughout his whole level. At the end of the level, we have to stop the mother computer and the tank robot that it manufactures. The tank robot will try to use its arms to attack us, meanwhile we gotta avoid running into it as the floor itself moves. It can also rain down a storm of missiles. After the tank is destroyed, we can attack the mother computer directly as the thing becomes almost completely defenseless, allowing us to just spam the thing with Cryo's weapon, and after like 2 cycles, the thing's kaput. Now it's time for more story. Sanda and Call confront Dr. Blackwell, who does know about what's happening and blames Graham for activating her again. Meanwhile, White confronts Graham for activating Trinity, an experiment White himself created, but was ultimately deemed a failure. Then Graham recognizes White as Dr. Bill Blackwell, a name that Dr. White has divorced himself from a long time ago. With the real villain revealed to be this Trinity, we set our eyes on the source of the outbreak, the Battle Coliseum. This final level is very straightforward, and honestly, if you ask me, it is the best of the final batch of the levels. It starts off with this enemy rush. From there, Trinity pretty much will make a path forward for Beck, with some troublesome enemies along the way. There are some neat platforming challenges here too, like this one above a bottomless pit where you need to use the dash over these gusts of wind in order to gain height. This was actually really fun, genuinely. This was a great final level to build up towards the ultimate battle. Finally, we come face to face with the corrupted Trinity. This is a two-phase fight, with phase 1... Yeah, Brandisher's weapon makes this a complete joke, as the iframes it can grant you allows those cell blocks to just pass through Beck harmlessly. Outside of that, Trinity will also raise the platforms and rain down its cells with you needing to jump over it. Phase 1 isn't too bad. Once you have it down, its patterns are very simple, and it becomes easy to deal with. Phase 2 sees Trinity assume this new form that honestly kind of reminds me of Queen Sectonia from Kirby Triple Deluxe. You have to destroy its body and absorb the cells to lower it so that you can actually damage its head. Trinity will launch a barrage of cells as an attack, shooting them out like a volcano. There's also this beam attack where it scans the entire room. This part of the boss fight is tricky, but not long after weakening it to its core, we can purify Trinity. With Trinity restored, the Haywire robots cease their violence and things go back to normal for everyone, although in a post-credit scene is an interaction with Dr. Blackwell and Dr. White, with Blackwell asking the important question, will Beck be a blessing or a curse? With that, we can end our journey through Mega Man 10-1. I was genuinely expecting to have the same sort of opinions as everyone else about Mighty No. 9 when I first started playing it. And don't get me wrong, there are some bad things about this game. It can be graphically bland at times, the amount of insta-kill objects on a lot of the stages is absurd, and there are some issues I have with the controls, but when you just look at Mighty No. 9, the game, it's actually really fun. Every mechanic around cell absorption is handled so well and makes the normal gameplay such a joy. I seriously want to see what expert gameplay of this game looks like, with how fast you can just blaze through stages with a dash. The levels, when they aren't trying to one-tap you, are fun, and the bosses are for the most part pretty fun to fight. My goal with this video isn't to tell you that Mighty No. 9 is good and you're wrong for thinking it's not, and I don't expect to change people's minds on this game. I just want to ask that, if possible, divorce it from the Kickstarter drama and play the game as it is. You won't regret it. Well, that was a neat detour from the classic series, but now we get the opportunity to return to the classic Blue Bomber one final time, for now, with the one and only Mega Man 11. Subscribe to the channel if that sounds fun to you, and leave a like and a comment should you choose. With all of that said, have a great day or night. Peace.